We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Intergenerational Services Commission on June 7th. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to have Commissioner Michael Folk lead us in that today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to start with the roll call next.
Chairperson Nickel, Vice Chairperson Price,
I'm here.
Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner Clayton,
Here.
Commissioner Hargrove, Commissioner Levy,
Here.
Commissioner Folk. Here. Commissioner Ahmad.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Starting with the introduction is, we want to welcome you to the commission, and tonight's agenda is available on the counter back there with a request. If you have a request to speak, we'll need you to fill out one of those forms as well if you're not already on the agenda. I'm reminded that if you request to speak, you got to turn them in prior to the completion of any staff presentation. So if you do want to comment on anything, make sure you turn in the form. Kind of run things pretty loose here sometimes. So if you do have something to say, just kind of get attention and we'll try and make it happen for you. Please also note that this meeting's being televised and recorded. So all of your speakers, in order to be recognized, must be called on by us. You can't just kind of yell out from the audience, but you guys are all pros at these meetings, so you come up to the microphone and speak. Also, we want to be professional and respectful at all times. Also wanted to know, we have some new commissioners, so we're going to have Cindy introduce the new commissioners, or?
They can actually just go ahead.
Oh, everybody, if you,
You have the oath next.
Start with Michael here.
yeah, we'll start with the introductions and go down the line here. We'll, even if you're returning, we'll introduce ourselves.
All right. Hello. My name is Michael Folk. I'm a junior, becoming a senior in River City High School, and I became interested in this commission to help provoke a change or a difference in my community. Thank you.
Dan Clayton, I've been on the commission for quite a few years.
Quite a few. Greg Price, been on the commission since, I believe, 2009.
Hi, I'm Aruj Ahmed. This is my first meeting. I'm an alternate member. I've lived in Sacramento for 6 years. I have 3 kids, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have a background in community organizing, and I wanted to get involved with community services.
And this is my first meeting here also. My name is Nancy Levy. I'm a senior advocate. I've been working with baby boomers and seniors since 2007. And I'm so sorry. We switched chairs. And I've been a senior advocate, and my main goal being on this commission is to bring as much community and lots of great services for seniors and baby boomers. Thank you.
Thanks. Now the oath of allegiance for public officers. Is this everybody or just the people who are new?
This is just going to be the new members. So if you please rise and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Nancy Levy.
Do solemnly swear
Solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to faithfully and
Thank you. Oops. Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 1C in general administration, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within jurisdiction of this commission. The commission is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to them at this time. Seeing none, we will move on to item 1D, commission communications.
Hi, good evening. Cindy Tuttle, Director of Parks and Recreation. We just wanted you to calendar June 24th at 10 a.m. if you are available. It will be the opening of our newest park, Joseph Joey Lopes Park, which is on the Sycamore Trail. We hope that you can join us for that wonderful celebration of the latest and newest park. We will be sending out a invite once that is prepared, but we just kind of wanted to get it on your calendar now if we could.
Joint meeting.
And then the other issue, I'm actually going to turn this over to Dan, is that we wanted to talk to you about calendaring a joint meeting between the Arts Commission and the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Commission. And so I think Dan had sent out a correspondence, but we hadn't gotten a lot of response. So we really want to get this joint meeting scheduled because we have a couple of big items coming before you.
Yeah, so right now we're looking at the week of July 11th or July 18th. So far, the consensus has been more towards July 18th for the meeting. We're going to try and bring in the Arts Commission as well as the Parks Commission, have a joint meeting. We're looking to have them hold the first part of the meeting at the Lock facility and then move the meeting back here to Chambers so we can conclude the meeting. So if you could just, I'll send another email out. If you could just reply with your availability for those dates, that'd be great. Thank you.
On the one for the July 11th, what day that week?
July 11th, I believe
that's
we're
a
looking
Monday,
at
right?
Mondays and Wednesdays is ideal. Ideally, we're looking at July 18th for the majority of the commissioners to be able to attend.
Okay, and the 18th would be Monday?
Monday.
Okay. I'll give you my reply back,
Okay.
because I don't do email.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is presentations. Item 2, Greater Sacramento Softball Association grant presentation. I hear there's a big check here. Push that button on the bottom.
All right, we're good. Okay, my name is Eric Culpepper. I'm the coordinator for youth and adult sports for the city. Today, I am recognizing GSSA, the Greater Sacramento Softball Association, for awarding us a $1,714 grant to use to improve our softball fields at Bright Park. So our partnership with GSSA is that we use them to get officials, purchasing of equipment, particularly a large purchase of balls at the beginning of the year. They're the governing body for softball rules. And then we also send our teams to participate in the league championship series in the fall, which is a tournament that they host, that we actually had 2 teams win this past year. A little background on our softball program is we run 2 seasons a year, co-ed and men's. They're both adult leagues that are played Monday through Friday, all at Bright Park. So I think that if I may, call up Jeff Dubchansky to present the check for us. I think we're going to take a picture. And then, Jeff, if you think you want to add.
Sure. First, I'd like to congratulate the new commissioners. As a previous director of Parks and Rec for the city of Roseville, I always enjoyed when we got new people on our commission and our city council. It always brought new life and new ideas into our city. So congratulations to all of you. And of course, congratulations to the existing members. And thank you for your service. This is one of the fun things that I get to do as the commissioner for the Greater Sacramento Softball Association. We deal with some cruddy things, but this is one of the fun things when I get to basically give out money. And this is the 4th time that I've been here to West Sacramento. So it's really nice to be here and to be able to do this. West Sac has been a great partner with us. We represent 20,000 adult players and 10,000 youth players that play softball in the area. And our area stretches all the way from Lake Tahoe to Dixon and from Galt to Lincoln, to think of the north side. So we have a big territory, and I do that as a volunteer. Now that I've retired from the city, I don't have to deal with traffic and things like that, so I get to deal with softball. So tonight, we're here to present you with our check, and we can take a picture.
Sure, I think Paul's,
Here's our, oop,
Paul's going to get some right here on the side.
maybe we'll do it, and we want to do it right here. And again, before I finish, I also want to thank the staff for participating in the grant program. You know, it's amazing to me that not all the agencies participate, so it's great to come back on multiple occasions and do this. We like to put things back into the facilities, and this is a great way to put things back into the ballparks. So again, thank you, and we'll see you in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is introduction of the new aquatics coordinator, and that's presented by Jerry Showalter, Recreation Coordinator.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jerry is our new employee. He's the aquatics coordinator at the West Sacramento Recreation Center, and I wanted to have him come out and introduce himself and tell him a little bit about himself. So thank you.
This thing on? Oh, perfect. Even better, left it on. Congratulations to all the new commissioners. Thank you, Commission, to having me here. New recreation coordinator for aquatics, taking care of our aquatics program, making sure they're as great as they were the years before and hopefully a little better thereafter. Been in aquatics on and off now for well over 20 years at this point, so kind of stuck at this point. Thoroughly enjoy it. It's pretty much my life. Did it for a while over at Sunrise Recreation and Parks, mainly in the Bay Area, and here to be at West Sacramento. Guys got a lovely facility and hope to keep it that way. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, presentation item number 4, ASES Kid Zone and Club West year-end review by Katie Hauser, Recreation Supervisor 2, formerly Aquatics.
Yes, formally. Put that part in there. Well, good evening and welcome to our new commissioners. My name is Katie Hauser. I'm the Recreation Supervisor for Youth and Teens. And so here tonight, thank you. Is it this middle one? Okay. So tonight I'm here to just do a Kid Zone and Club West review. So Kid Zone and Club West is our after-school program. Okay. So ACES is the overarching grant. So that's the After-School Education and Safety Program. So that's actually a state grant that's funded by Prop 49 through the state of California. And it's actually awarded to Washington Unified School District. They contract the program to us. So we actually run the program on their behalf at these 5 qualifying sites across town. So it's basically every elementary school in town except for Southport and Bridgeway. And this is a free program that's offered. It's 2 to 6 p.m. And 12 to 6 on minimum days, and it's every day that school is offered. So we literally just closed the program June 2nd of last week. So it goes August to June. And so Kid Zone is grades K through 5, and Club West is grades 6 through 8. So we have a Club West at every site except for Westfield. And then at Riverbank, that's where our main Club West center is. That's where there's the actual original teen center that is still there, and we run that facility as well. So this year we had 571 kids registered across these 5 sites. So this is just I wanted to just give you an idea of the tentative daily schedule. We have a variety of things happening, but we have about 70 staff that work across this program at all of our sites. So it's kind of a lot for them to take in, but they are, there are times when they come together as a whole site, and then they break up into individual classroom grades as well, where they have a program leader. And so the staff to student ratio is 1 to 20. So we are limited by grant money and how many kids we can actually accept into these programs. But you can kind of see that they get a wide variety of activities at these programs. That happened. So just a couple of highlights this year, we do an art show every year. So this art show was based on the theme Inside Out. And so all of the students across these grades put together art pieces and they work on their art. And then we put a committee together and we select the winners. And then we have an art show, an actual art reception for their families, and then their art hangs in the gallery for the entire month. And they get art supplies so that they can continue to work on their art. The grant also provides money for enrichment providers, outside enrichment providers. So we contracted with ATA Karate, Coast to Coast Soccer, and Firefly Art. They put in proposals to the district, and we choose the winners there. And then they come in and they teach these kids all different kinds of things that are based, and they have to align everything with Common Core. And that goes to all of the sites. And that's actually, that funding is provided in the grant. And then every Friday, we have what they call it, the staff call clubs, where they get to, they put together these really cool clubs. The kids get to pick which ones they want to go to. And so past clubs include Community Heroes, art, costume making, farming, mystery theater, Dr. Seuss, and they do all these activities once, every Friday. And it's kind of a highlight. It's not homework, it's not anything like that, and they really enjoy that as well. And then we have Club West. We have a Club West committee, which is a teen leadership committee. So the kids apply and they interview. It's very similar to our Teen Hero program. It's just during the school year. So they help plan dances. They help plan activities for their Club West at their actual sites. And then we have 4 dances across the year. Fall Fest Ball, Sweetheart Dance, PB&J for new middle schoolers, and then our celebration dance that happens at the end of the year. And then our incentive day. So we do a big trip that the kids have to earn. Behavior gets a little squirrely at the end of the school year. So we put together a 5-week tracking period where they have to have good academics, good attendance, and a good attitude, and they earn stamps for all of these things. If they get a certain number of stamps, they get to go to the rec center pool, which is awesome because some of these kids never go to the pool. I mean, we took all of the sites this year, and every year we have kids that say, I've never been here. This place is so awesome, which is, just a little bit of a bummer since they live in this community and this is the first time that they've been there. So we're really thankful that we're able to provide that opportunity to a lot of these students who've never been. So again, that was like a whirlwind tour. We do so much for ACES, again, because it's a school year long program that runs a long time. And so we're kind of just breaking all that down now and getting our summer programs kicked off for next year. So with that, unless you guys have any other questions.
Got a question?
The ACES program, yes.
Westmore Oaks, how come it only goes up to the 5th grade?
At Westfield?
Westmore Oaks,
Westmore Oaks is K through 8.
yes. But on your thing, I thought it said K through 5th.
Westfield.
I think just, if it did, it was a typo. Every school is K through 8.
Yeah, because you had 2 of them there. Westfield
Okay,
was
so
one,
then that was a
Westmore
typo.
Oaks
Yeah.
was K through 5th, and I was wondering why, because I know it goes to the 8th.
Yes, so that was just a mistake.
Okay.
Only Westfield is K through 5,
Okay,
and I'm not sure about why that is.
okay.
I feel like I was told before, but I can't remember.
Okay, like I said, I was just wondering why, because I knew Westmore Oaks went up to
Yeah,
8.
so our largest, Westmore Oaks is actually one of our largest sites, ACES sites as well, has a very large Club West population there.
The dances, are they only at Riverbank, the 4 dances?
No, they move around. That's a good question. So Fall Fest Ball is at City Hall, it's downstairs in the Galleria. Sweetheart Dance is at the Community Center. PB&J is at the main Club West, when we want to bring them into, like, this is what middle school is. And so that's where the game room and all that fun stuff is. And then the celebration dance is usually in the black box, but there was a scheduling conflict this year, so we moved it and had a beach party at the rec center, which was a fun change for this year.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation number 5, the barn update. Cindy Tuttle, Director of Parks and Recreation. The barn.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Vice Chairman Price, members of the commission, and again, my congratulations to our newest members. I'm thrilled that we now have a full commission because I think you've been running at partial power for a while now, so thank you. So I'm excited to see all the new faces and as well as our existing members, so thank you for that. I did want to give you just a very brief update on the barn. As you may know, the barn agreements do include the use of the site for programs and events for city use. An item did go to the city council on June 1st to actually get direction from them on what they would like to see. We did outline a multiple of options for the council. However, they have directed staff to come back with an implementation policy that will come before this body, and that's part of the reason for the joint meeting with the Arts Commission. So that would be an item that you would both be hearing at the same time. It will also go to the Economic Development Advisory Commission as well. The idea is that we would utilize these up to 10 event days for community events. Yet to be determined whether the city would produce those events, whether we would hire outside firms to assist with those events. Some of the ideas that were talked about, for example, is, the dig-in dinners, the farmers market, the state of the city, River City High School may want to do graduation. So those were some of the ideas that were put out there. And again, staff will be putting an implementation policy together over the next couple of weeks, and it is our intent to bring that to you at the joint meeting in July, and then it will, for your input, and then based on that input, it will then go to the council for final approval and implementation. As far as the barn structure itself, it is targeted to be completed on the exterior by the end of June. Then the pods that are the internal elements are scheduled to be a few months after that. So there is the hope or the plan is that they would have some type of interim events there until the pods were completed that would include food trucks and portable restrooms. And so we'll be meeting quarterly with the managers of that facility, again, to coordinate dates and programs. And at this point, there is no scheduled programs, but we do hope to be putting together what that looks like, again, over the next few weeks and months. So just a very brief update. Just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Consent agenda, approval of the minutes of the April 12th, 2016 special meeting.
I recommend that we okay the minutes of the special meeting on April 12th, 2016.
Do we have a second of that?
Could we second?
Yes, you can.
We second. I second.
All approved to approve the meeting minutes for the April 12th, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Consent agenda passes. Regular agenda, number 7, presentation on the Southport Levee Improvement Project. Greg Fabian, Flood Protection Manager.
Well, first, I want to thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Most folks don't, so I appreciate that. So, like Greg Fabian, Flood Protection Manager, City of West Sacramento. Myself and the folks who work in my division, we also are the administrative support for the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. So we're the folks that do the work day to day to carry out the mission of the agency. And tonight's presentation, it's actually kind of a two-part presentation. So mine followed by my colleague, Wendy Williams. It's meant to be a joint presentation. First, I'm going to talk about a little history about flood protection and some of our completed projects, and then perhaps most importantly, our upcoming Southport Levee Improvement Project. And then Wendy will come on after me and talk about some of the post-project conditions that she'll be seeking some feedback on. So this is a little bit of way of introduction. And let's see if I can control the mouse. All right. I think as most folks know, if you've been in West Sacramento, well, if you haven't been here for longer than 7 years, you may not know this because we haven't seen a lot of water in quite a long time. But in the wintertime, in wet winters, the city is literally surrounded by water almost entirely on all sides. We've got the Sacramento River to the east of us, the Sacramento Bypass to the north, the Yolo Bypass to the west, and then there's this small dry levee that we have down at the bottom of the city, that South Cross levee. That levee does provide some level of flood protection should there be a break south of the city on a levee, either on the Sacramento River or the bypass. So we do have levees that surround our entire city. And then, of course, we're bisected right down the middle by the Deepwater Ship Channel, which creates additional levees that need to be monitored and maintained. All in all, there's about 50 miles of levees that make up the West Sacramento levee system. We do not have 50 miles that surround or bisect the city. There are some levee miles south of the city that are included as part of our system. So it is about, I think it's about 52 miles or so of levees. And this graphic really is, besides the objectives that I'll go into in a minute, it's really to show you sort of where West Sacramento sits in relation to the Sacramento River flood control system. So we're darn near at the southern end of that whole flood control system, and water does flow downhill. So we are at essentially the confluence of the Sacramento River and its tributaries upstream, as well as the American River that comes from the east. So in really wet winters, we can get hit from a couple different sides. And so it's no surprise that flood protection has been, you know, the number one, if not the number one priority, the number one or number two priority for the city for quite some time, decades. So the goal of the West Sacramento Levee Improvement Program is to provide a 200-year level of protection for the entire community. And we do that through primarily through two sort of, not really joint, but simultaneous efforts. The first one, which we embarked upon in 2000, well, we started probably in 2007, 2008, and I think we signed the agreement in 2009. And that's partnering with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Water Resources, California Department of Water Resources, to do a reevaluation of the West Sacramento levee system. And that reevaluation is called the General Reevaluation Report. And then the second mission, or the second avenue that we also embarked upon, was to partner with the state to implement flood risk reduction projects, levee construction projects, as quickly as possible to start bringing increased levels of flood protection to the community in advance of a federal project. And I should say that the whole purpose for that first tract of doing that general reevaluation report is to establish a new federal project, a new federal interest, whereby the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers would come in and then take over the construction of the levee improvements. And then other objectives for the West Sacramento Levee Improvement Program, is to reduce flood risk as quickly as possible, and then implement projects that are accepted politically, economically. The residents are funding the local share of the cost to make these improvements. And then we're also looking at environmentally acceptable projects. I'll go into some of that in a little bit with the Southport project. Where we can, we want to be able to enhance riparian and other habitats. And then we also want to be able to provide recreation opportunities where they don't conflict with the flood risk reduction features. You know, the levees are right adjacent to all these water bodies, and so, you know, when the water is not real high and there's not a risk of flooding, it's a nice amenity. It's a nice place to walk and view the surrounding, you know, habitat and water features. So they kind of lend themselves to providing these opportunities for recreation. So a little more about the West Sacramento General Reevaluation Report. The study conducted by the Army Corps of Engineers looks at the entire West Sacramento levee system, all 52 miles. It was initiated in 2009, and the actual report was completed in April of this year, where we had the chief's report that was executed by the general, two-star general back at Army Corps headquarters. That was a monumental achievement, took about 7 years to complete, and then the next step in order to achieve, to make this a true federal project, that's to get congressional authorization. And so right now, our project is on two draft bills that sit, one with the Senate and one with the House committees, and they're proposed to be included in a 2016 Water Resource Development Act bill. Once that bill is authorized, our project becomes an officially authorized federal project. And that will set up the funding and the authorization for the Army Corps to then start designing and implementing and constructing the remainder of the West Sacramento improvement projects. So that was a really key accomplishment that West and the city achieved this year. So stay tuned, though, for that word of 2016. So it'll be in the newspapers, it'll be in the news, and that'll be the key next step to get that federal project authorized. And one thing I'd like to point out, even though the GRR was completed this year, the Southport project, which I'll go into in a little bit here, the project itself is included as part of the West Sacramento General Reevaluation Report. So the project that we're going to be going to construction later on this year is a part of the federal project. We're advancing it in front of the federal project, and they'll give us credit for that later, but it is completely consistent with and considered part of that federal project. So the West Sacramento projects. So I'm going to try and use the pointer here if it'll work. There we go. So projects that we've completed to date, we started back in 2008, I believe it was, and completed the I Street project, which is right here next to the I Street Bridge. It, right when the project was completed, then the extension of Riverwalk Park was constructed right on top of the levee improvements. In 2011, we completed the Rivers erosion repair project, not erosion, Rivers construction project, and then also in 2011, we completed this, what we call the CHP Academy project, because it's right adjacent to the CHP Academy. But this is the Sacramento Bypass South levee that we completed back in 2011. And then the Southport project, which is by far our largest project, I think the sum total of these 3 projects completed is about 1.5 miles. This project, the Southport project, which starts right at where the Army Corps left off with that setback levee project they completed in 2015. We pick up where they leave off, and we complete about 6 miles of levee improvements all along the Sacramento River here adjacent to the Southport community. So this is the most vulnerable stretch of levee in the city of West Sacramento at this time. We're scheduled to go to construction later this year and anticipate being completed with this project in 2018. The Army Corps has also done a couple of other bank protection projects back in 2012 and 2009. There were some slip repair projects that they also did some work on. So before I went into some of the specifics about the Southport project, I just wanted to go through and describe for you and sort of show to you in graphic form some of the deficiencies that we're looking to, that anytime you go to make some improvements to a levee, you look at the existing conditions and the existing deficiencies. And this here is a sort of a list of the typical deficiencies that you might find with a levee. We have erosion, slope stability, through and under seepage, and then encroachments, vegetation being one of them, but pipe penetrations and other things are also encroachments. So here's a sort of a graphical depiction of slope stability and erosion. So typically slopes, what you like to see on a levee are nice, even slopes, 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 on the land side or water side. But typically what you find out there is these very unstable, sometimes areas of very steep slope that by their very nature are unstable and can tend to slip or fall. And then down around, typically around the water line, you get these areas of erosion where the bank has eroded away. And these can be, these can lead, if they go unchecked, can lead to levee failures. Some design features that can mitigate for slope stability and erosion are building up the bank, both land side and water side, to provide those nice smooth 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 slopes and to fill in the holes where the erosion had taken place. Another way of dealing with erosion is through rock bank protection. And this is basically armoring the side of the levee with sometimes a combination of vegetation and rock and other materials, but in essence, you want to armor that so that the wind or wave erosion keeps the material in place and doesn't let it erode away. So here's a depiction of through and under seepage, and these are really the mechanisms that led to the failure in Louisiana following or during Hurricane Katrina, where imperfections in the levee, whether they be through rodent holes or other material deficiencies, can cause or can develop pathways of water. So you have the high water providing a hydraulic push on the riverside, can pump water through the levee or even under the levee. And, we've seen some of these in some high water events in the past, and a boil, which is water, kind of creeping up on the land side of the levee and kind of percolating out. When the water is clear, it's always, concerning, but when the water is clear, it's not bringing material with it. If that water turns brown or murky, that means it's entrailing a lot of material along with it. And so that can lead to creating voids under or within the levee, which again can lead to levee failure. So some design features that can mitigate against that. This is a very simple way of basically putting a bunch of mass on the land side of the levee to provide that weight to counter that hydraulic push. And so that can help to reduce the migration of that water. Once you stop the migration, then you stop the entrail of material and you can stop those voids from happening. Another method of, and that, by the way, let me back up, this really can only prevent against underseepage. This design feature, which is a slurry cutoff wall, which is kind of a loose concrete type mix, provides a barrier. It's literally a barrier to prevent both through and under seepage from occurring. And this can be used in conjunction with maybe a shallow cutoff wall to deal with the through seepage, and if we were to build a berm on this side, you could have a shallow cutoff wall for the through and a seepage berm for the under seepage. Or you can do a deep cutoff wall, which can mitigate for both through and under seepage. So you can use combinations of either one of those to mitigate for through and under seepage, depending on the conditions. Evidently, I have a sensitive finger, or this is a very sensitive rollerball. I'm going to have to catch up. All right, so that brings us to the Southport project. So this is by far the largest levee project that the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency has undertaken, both in size, literally the extent of it, and in terms of dollars. Our previous early implementation projects, I think, totaled somewhere on the order of $35 million. This project here is on the order of $200 million. Total project length is about 5.6 miles, and it will construct about 4 miles of setback levee. That's a new levee constructed setback some distance from the original levee that's adjacent to the river there. And we're going to do just shy of 2 miles of in-place improvements. So I'm going to use my mouse and just sort of walk you through some of the features. The first phase of the project, phase 1, was Village Parkway, or Village Parkway South. And you may have seen the construction going on out in the community. That's this sort of orange line right here. And Village Parkway South is the replacement roadway for South River Road that currently resides on top of the levee. I'm sure you guys have driven it right there along the Sacramento River. Well, our project is going to disrupt South River Road. It's going to create voids in the part of what's going to be the remnant levee. And so South River Road will no longer be continuous. And so we had to provide an alternate means of access for property owners that are affected by the property. And the Village Parkway alignment for that replacement of South River Road fit very nicely with the city's general plan and didn't require us to acquire any more property than would otherwise be dedicated for this roadway in the future. So the project sort of helped to advance this part of the city's transportation element of the general plan much, well in advance of when it was anticipated to be done. But it serves a purpose for the project. And then these roadway here are these access roads to property owners who typically have driveways or had driveways, that come down off of South River Road, this is the way that they'll be accessing their homes through these roadways here, these access roads. And then also, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So this Phase 1, the Village Parkway South, that project is essentially complete. It's ahead of schedule. We anticipate it being done either end of June or maybe sometime in July, but we were lucky, and the contractor was on top of things, so that project is essentially complete. And we're actually having, next Friday, we're having the ribbon-cutting ceremony, and we'll be opening the roadway up to public use starting June 16th, next Friday. So we're pretty excited about that. Then Phase 2 of the project are the levee improvements themselves. The plans are complete, the bid specifications are complete. We're doing some pre-construction activity in the field right now. We plan to go out to bid in July and award a construction contract right around September and get to construction this year on constructing the actual levee improvements, the levee features. And I'm going to start down here in the south because I'm not too sure why they labeled them this way. I tend to go north to south. In flood, they tend to go downstream to upstream. So segment A down here at the bottom, oh, and by the way, these various different improvements are sort of dictated by the soil and geology that exists in these in and adjacent to these levees. So these improvements that I'm going to go through were not just sort of picked at random, but they were really based on the existing geology, what the soil types are, how deep they go, are there sandy mixes, are there clay mixes, a variety of things like that led to these different improvements. So in segment A down here, it's essentially a repair in place. We're going to degrade about the top third of the levee. We'll install a slurry cutoff wall here, and then we'll reform and rebuild the top third of the levee with appropriate slopes, both for water and landside. Then through segment B, we transition from that repair in place to a setback levee, and that occurs right in here. So this dotted line you see here, that's follows the setback levee alignment, and that really goes from segment B all the way up through segment F up to segment G. So we have the setback levee, and then adjacent to the setback levee is a seepage berm. So that's represented by this sort of blue-green part right here. And so in this area, we have a shallow cutoff wall for the through seepage and the seepage berm for the under seepage. There's a combination of features that I talked about earlier. Then right here through segments D and really through part of segment E, we have a more deep cutoff wall and no seepage berm landside. Then we transition again to shallow cutoff wall and seepage berm. And then up here in segment G is a repair in place. Similar to segment A, we degrade the top third of the levee, install a slurry cutoff wall, and then build it back up again. So there really is a slurry cutoff wall throughout the entire length of the project. And then between the setback levee and the existing levee, we've created what we call offset areas. And this is the space between existing levee and new levee. It's without, and you'll see some pictures later, kind of looks like a little valley. There's a north offset area, which is north of Bees Lake. And then there's a south offset area south of Bees Lakes. And Bees Lake sort of cuts those offset areas off, and they do not connect. They're independent offset areas. And then the last thing, there'll be some grading and stuff that goes on there and some contouring, and this will be the site of our mitigation plantings, both for the project and some additional mitigation or additional plantings will be planted in here for the future to help do some advanced mitigation for the future federal project. So the last thing we do in the north area here, we degrade the existing levee, and we're going to connect the Sacramento River to this offset area. It'll be at about elevation 7. And we anticipate at that elevation, we would see water enter from the Sacramento River into the offset area on average about once every 2 years. This year, with the high water that we had for brief periods of time, this area would have inundated maybe 2 or 3 times with the rise and fall of the Sacramento River. And in the south offset area, we degrade the levee, the existing levee, in 2 places, here and here, to do the same thing, about elevation 7. And again, we expect that there would be inundation of the offset areas on the order of once every 2 years, excuse me, on average. That's just statistically speaking. The grading in the offset area is such that there are specific channels to direct drainage. So we have positive drainage out of these offset areas. That's done intentionally so as the river falls, any fish or other habitat that gets inside the offset area doesn't get stranded in there. And the last thing, at least I think the last thing I'll mention about this project is right about here, unfortunately it's sort of covered up by the segment marker, but right underneath there, and you'll see this in another graphic that Wendy does a little better, there is an access road right here that connects Village Parkway across the offset area to the existing South River Road. And the same thing right about here, from Village Parkway across the new levee to the existing South River Road. And these access roadways are to provide, these roadways are to provide access to the 2 marinas that are there. And there's 2 of them, so we can provide circulation and means of, 2 means of ingress and egress, and that also satisfies, public safety needs for fire and PD as well. So this will be the only segment of South River Road that will remain and be maintained by the city. It's just between the 2 marinas, excuse me, the 2 marinas.
Segment A and Segment G will be gone? Or-
Well, yeah, once
South
we,
River Road isn't on Segment A, sorry, so it's down below.
that's correct, but if you look at segment G, once we degrade the levee, that roadway's gone. And we're not putting a roadway back on top. It would be a road that would go nowhere anyways.
Gotcha.
So,
But that was south of the last project, right? The Army Corps project?
correct.
Okay.
So, one of the things that, at some point in time, when we award the contract, the contractor will be closing off South River Road. And so we're working with the city right now and various folks in transportation, PD, fire, to look at where on the existing South River Road we'll close it off, or we're going to provide parking, turnaround location, that kind of thing. But north-south traffic will be able to take place along the Village Parkway alignment. And then the Village Parkway North piece, which is not depicted here, but it essentially is right here, that connects the Mike McGowan Bridge to the existing Village Parkway. That'll be completed a little bit later this year. I think they're targeting November. But don't hold me to it. But
That's what I heard.
once that one's completed, then we'll have a complete north-south segment from the bridge all the way down to Gregory Avenue here in the south. All right, so here's sort of that valley I was talking about. Here's the existing levee, and you can sort of see in this little red outline here what the existing levee looked like and how the degrade to create this offset area, which is essentially in alignment with elevation 7 and that sort of 2-year scenario I was talking about with the Sacramento River. And this, inside this offset areas where we're going to do all these plantings. There'll be floodplain habitat, riparian habitat created, shaded riverine habitat. And once this old levee feature here, the old project levee, once the new levee is constructed back here with our nice 3-to-1 side slopes, a nice O&M corridor on water side and land side, seepage berm, once all this is completed, this is no longer, the remnant levee is no longer a federal levee. It's no longer a project levee. So we're free to do other things there, like plant vegetation on the water side. And right now, through core policy, vegetation is prohibited on project levees or federal levees. So consequently, our new levee, no vegetation. But this gives us a really good opportunity to be able to create some more shaded riverine habitat right along the Sacramento River there. So in addition to providing, and also I should mention that even though we have these areas that are connecting, these inlet outlets that are connecting the Sacramento River to the offset area, the vast majority of the existing levee remains in place. So between the Sacramento River and the Southport community, we essentially have 2 very large levee systems that remain in place. This is the flood control feature here, and this one is the remnant levee, but from an erosion standpoint, wind wave, this is the main buffer against any of that wind wave erosion. So the remnant levee is sort of the sacrificial levee, if you will take the brunt of that. And very calm waters, if you will, especially with the vegetation here, are in the offset area. So between those two features, it should provide some very positive flood protection for the community. And then I think you can sort of see with these O&M corridors, crown of levee, and some of this, wooded area here in the offset area, when you start thinking about it, there's tremendous opportunities for future recreation and other activities, amenities out there. All right, project schedule, and I'm almost done, by the way. Phase 1, like I said, we anticipated June, July. It's June 16, next Friday, grand opening. The Phase 2 levee construction, like I said, we intend to award a contract later this year. Year 1, we'll be collecting material, which we call borrow, to build the new setback levee. So we'll be doing a lot of that construction in Year 1. Year 2, we plan to complete the setback levee and move on to one, if not both, of the fix-and-place solutions in segments A and G, and also the grading in the offset area. Year 3 will complete any of the fix-and-place segments in A and G if they haven't already been done. We will finish whatever grading in the offset area that needs to be completed, and then we'll degrade and construct those inlet outlets. That's the very last thing we do. And then up here I have year 4 through 9. We're going to award a separate contract for planting of the offset area, and that will occur immediately upon completion of the levee features. And I've got this as year 4 through 9. It probably will take place in 1 year, but we're going to have this 5-year establishment period, minimum of 5-year establishment period, and maybe as much as 10, where we have to do a pretty aggressive O&M to make sure that what we plant survives and grows and does what it's designed to do. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And remember, there's a companion presentation that's going to get into more details about what happens after the project's completed. So, whoops, from flood protection history or features of the project, be happy to answer any questions.
Where's the borrow coming from and how is it getting there?
So much of the borrow is coming really from on-site. So a lot of what the degrade in the offset area gets to be used in the project. Those inlet outlet construction gets to be used in the project. And then adjacent to, in the Oak Knoll Bend area, where there's the really large offset area, right adjacent to there we have what we call on-site borrow. And it's, we have arrangements with some of the property owners there to use the material. For then we'll use some of the material in the offset area to restore that afterwards. And then the other large borrow area is just south of the city limit. Wasafeca purchased about
Piles of dirt out there, yeah.
It's more like agricultural fields, but it's right as you exit the city and go up Jefferson Boulevard up onto the levee there. It's the parcel right there on the left. And
Yeah,
so
so
that's,
that was a concern we had about traffic of bringing in big trucks of dirt across the now 3 bridges of the barge canal, but it sounds like most of the material is coming from south anyway, so that's going to be nice.
yeah, most of it on site and some of it from the what we call Borrow 1 area.
Cool.
The Rivers project, was that the one, basically the rivers and also behind the Riverbank School?
Yes, that's correct.
So that one there, they end up actually using what a slurry cutoff wall?
Yes, there's a very, very deep slurry cutoff wall there, one of the deepest in California.
Okay, because then the one where the high patrol, that wall, the one there, that's where they end up actually taking existing broken up cement. I guess way back when, they had cement that actually was in there on the levee. They had to remove it so they actually could see the levee.
Yeah, so they basically had to recontour everything out there, so they removed much of what was there, made sure that the waterside and landside slopes were the right geometry for that slope stability, and then they re-armored it with concrete right near the entrance there from the Sacramento River at the actual bypass itself.
Because I remember way back when I actually got the opportunity to go on a river watch. And at least the Highway Patrol Academy one, and then the one over probably where like G was at, the levee, was kind of losing a little bit of the dirt on that.
Yeah, there's a number of landside, waterside and landside berms along the Southport Reach. If you drive out there and you look, it almost looks like somebody created a roadway, but the roadway's lifted up above, where the rest of the land is, and those are some of the fixes that were done by the Army Corps over the years for creating those berms to keep that seepage in check.
Okay.
Any other questions here? Nancy?
One small clarification, because we would love to come out and support you. You said that it was, the grant opening was on June 16th, but that's on a Thursday. So is it on a Friday, the 17th, or Thursday, the 16th?
Is it
It's the 17th, okay.
That's Friday the 17th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's the ribbon cutting, everything, because the road's pretty much already open now, right?
Road's not open now, although some folks are using it.
That's what I heard, yeah.
We passed it the other day. It's
But
amazing.
it will be officially opened next Friday, the 17th. Thank you for that clarification, by the way.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, Part 2, discussion of post-project conditions and possible recreation uses for areas created by the Southport Levee Improvement Project. Wendy Williams, Senior Civil Engineer.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Williams. I'm a Senior Civil Engineer with the Community Development Department here at the city. So as a follow-up to the project status update that Greg just gave you, I want to delve into potential recreational uses that will be created by the improvements of the Southport Levee project. Okay, so this slide here gives you an overview of those off-site areas that will be created by the project. The bold red line, let's see if I can get the little guy to work. The bold red line here represents the setback levee and the seepage berm. The bright green lines here, those are the two accesses and maintenance roads from Village Parkway up to South River Road on the north side and south side of Bees Lakes, and the remaining stretch of South River Road in between them. And then right there in the middle, those two is Bees Lakes. And just to the north of the North Access Road, there is a future planned 9-acre sports community park. As noted here, the approximate area of the offset is 125 acres. That's split about 1/3 of that would be north of Bees Lakes, and about 2/3 of that would be south of Bees Lakes. The typical offset distance is about 250 to 300 feet across from the, and I'll show you another slide about that later. But at its widest down here at this bend, it would be about 800 feet across. So let's zoom in just a little bit. This is a look at the area north of Bees Lakes. So this yellow line down here at the end, this is the northern access from Village Parkway up to South River Road. This blue line here represents Linden Road, to give you some perspective. And then this kind of triangle piece is that 9-acre future community sports park that we had just mentioned. So this dashed purple line here, that's one of those inlet-outlet features that Greg talked about. In this area, the remnant levee will be totally degraded to allow the water to come in and out here as the river rises and falls. These thin purple lines That's the area that's going to be very carefully graded at a constant gradient to allow the water to come in and out smoothly without leaving any ponding and stranding fish. Okay, so this is a picture of the southern offset area. You'll notice that it is significantly larger than the north offset area. Again, here at the north side of the south offset, we have that connection from South River Road down to Village Parkway. Let's see. Here again, we have these two dashed purple lines. Those are the two inlet outlets in the southern offset area. And then these thin purple lines in between here. And from this point all the way up to here, those are those constant gradient lines that'll be carefully graded to make sure that fish aren't stranded. So I noted that the typical offset area is 250 to 300 feet. That's normally in areas about here and about here. But here at its widest, it'll be about 800 feet across. So this is a simplified representation of a floodplain ecology cycle during the summer or dry season. During this time, most of the offset area would be available for beneficial recreational uses to the extent that those uses do not interfere with this ecological cycle. For instance, uses which may induce erosion at the inlet outlets or which might disturb sensitive habitat would not be allowed. This artist rendering shows a floodplain ecological cycle during times of flooding. The main point here is that any improvements that we happen to do within the area of potential flooding must be able to withstand that flooding. So we would think about Discovery Park type improvements that occasionally get flooded. So this is an actual cross-section of the Southport Levee project at one of the inlet outlet areas. So the dashed red line represents the existing levee with South River Road on the top, and that whole thing is going away at this inlet and outlet area. And then this is the construction of the new setback levee and the waterside access maintenance road. Okay. So this is also an actual cross-section of the levee. It represents the typical condition with the floodplain between the two levees. So we're going to sit on this slide for a little bit so I can have you digest that as we talk about a few items. So this starts to give you an idea of the magnitude of the area that we're talking about. So the width shown here from this point of the maintenance road for the new levee to the toe of the existing levee, that's about 250 feet, as it's shown. That does not include the remnant levee, nor the maintenance roads, nor the seepage berm, nor the setback levee. So it's a very large area that we're looking at. The new setback levee will be approximately 28 to 29 feet high from the bottom of this floodplain area and about 22 feet above Village Parkway. So before we talk about potential recreational uses, let's talk about constraints for just a second. The design objectives and mitigation requirements for the project will drive the placement of trees and other landscaping in various areas to achieve those requirements and mitigations. The final list of uses that are allowed within the floodplain area must not interfere with those mitigations. So for instance, I used the example before of any use which might induce or increase erosion in the inlet-outlet area would not be allowed. Secondly, all uses should be aligned with our regional trails initiative that's upcoming, our city's bike ped master plan, and our parks master plan. So we need to keep those restrictions in the back of our mind, but I don't want them to cloud our creativity about what could actually happen in this large expansive area. So let's look at some recent examples of how flood protection projects and recreation features can coexist. So this is our Bright Park Nature Trail. This is on top of the levee improvement that was done at the rivers. This is just north of Riverbank Road. That was done in 2011. This is our Riverwalk Park improvement that was done right after the I Street Bridge project in 2008. The area shown is just south of I Street and right behind the CalSTRS building. So at the project completion, the only paved roadways will be the 2 access and maintenance roadways from Village Parkway to South River Road and that section of South River Road between them. All other maintenance roadways that we might be able to use for other uses, other recreational uses, will be compacted gravel, much like what is shown here. So as noted in the staff report, walking and jogging uses will be the easiest to accommodate in the offset areas, even on a larger scale. For organized events, parking and access will be key. The planned community sports park could be used as a start-finish line, a staging area. The current park concept includes about 160 parking spaces, as well as a large pavilion and 3 Little League fields, but the final configuration may be different. So Wasafka will also have several other remnant parcels at the close of this project that might also be used for parking. There's several parcels along the east side of Village Parkway and one at the end of Linden Road, and we're continually looking for other places to provide some additional parking. So trail bikes would be well accommodated with the gravel levee roads. To accommodate road bikes or other transportation modes, however, we could consider paving at least some of the maintenance roads as long as that was preceded by environmental review and approval by the Flood Protection Board and the Army Corps. So fishing along the river is a popular pastime which we think should be preserved in the offset areas. This is another use that would benefit from well-planned parking areas. This is just some examples of bird watching or wildlife viewing structures. Although viewing areas need not be this elaborate, it could be as simple as a widened area of a pathway and a few benches. Here's another option, disc or frisbee golf for the offset area. Could set up an archery area, especially given the amount of acreage that will be available. Gently sloping areas along the riverbank may lend themselves to canoe or kayak launch areas. And this by far is my favorite one. This one's really cool. Local school students could use the offset area for biology, ecology, nature lessons. Again, the future sports park could accommodate school bus parking and also act as a staging area. So one issue that parks and our police department constantly battle is the misuse of our recreational areas. And misuse, when I use that term, it could be in the form of littering, vandalism, or even the use of motorized vehicles on a trail that's not built for that. And people often think that enforcement is the only way to discourage criminal activity and illegal behavior. However, one of our first lines of defense for this would be a CPTED-friendly design for an area. So I know that may sound strange, but CPTED, or Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, is the concept that undesirable behaviors can be encouraged or discouraged through the form and design of the built environment and its physical condition. So it's paying attention to sight lines to make sure that we don't create hiding places with fences or walls or landscaping. It's notifying users where they can and can't go, what they should and shouldn't do, and what the consequences are for that. It's also making sure that everything is maintained well, that trash is picked up regularly, graffiti is removed as soon as possible, and broken or malfunctioning items are repaired or replaced immediately. And CPTED works for several reasons. Would-be criminals and illegitimate users just don't want to be around. And the more legitimate use you end up having, the less illegitimate use you end up having, and it's a good cycle. And so the more well-maintained and orderly a place feels, the more it feels like it's owned, the more people feel comfortable being there. Again, it's a positive cycle. So let's look at just a few key principles of CPTED, and we're almost done. So natural surveillance is arguably the most important CPTED concept. Think of it as passive security features that would maximize visibility and minimize potential hiding places. Territoriality and access management work together to define spaces by using informational and directional signage to convey rules and consequences through the placement of signs, fencing, landscaping, gates, that sort of thing. So here's just a few examples of what signage along a trail could look like. So that's the end of my presentation. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and then staff would love to hear any comments or suggestions that you might have for potential recreational uses within the project area. And then I'll count on Greg and Cindy to help me if they have anything to add.
Who wants to go first? I got a couple questions. With the CPTED stuff, how do you envision that working with, without having a levee access or a levee road on top of the levee? So you'd have the road, then the levee, then the offset area, then the other, remnant levee. How do you police that area if you can't see it from the road? I mean, what are some of the ideas that you guys have come up with?
Well, you're not only trying to see it from the roadway. It's all about the people who are there providing the passive surveillance. So the more comfortable you make it for everybody, the more you're counting on them to be the passive surveillance.
Yeah, the more planned activities and the more access and the more.
Correct. Absolutely.
So that's why I really like the stuff with the the gravel roads for areas to take, to go out there on off-road bikes or whatever. Now, the other part of that is what we're already seeing on the north part of the Army Corps project is, the off-highway vehicles, the Honda Hills crowd still going down there and tearing up the offset area now.
Right.
How, that's the other part is, how do we make that area not attractive to that part? There's all the stuff that goes on around Bees Lakes in the trees and bushes and stuff over there now. I mean, there's camping and all the stuff that, we want to provide safe areas to do that and organized areas to do that. And I think that's what you guys are looking at, is trying to make, a camping area that's legitimate, so it drives away the illegitimate camping.
That's
right?
exactly right. Yep.
I wrote down something. I'm just crossing stuff off as I answer. You answered most of my questions, I think. Yeah, I don't have anything. You guys have any other questions? No, I
Yeah,
think.
What is it pickleball that we, the seniors are starting to do?
Pickleball?
It's like small, like
Is that what they
tennis
call
on
it?
a small court.
Pickleball?
Is that what we call it, pickleball?
Yes, it's a court.
Yeah, but, I mean, having it on, say, a grassy area, courts on a grassy area, something that you could sit there and probably put down there, and, I mean, even like a horseshoe pits or something that we could still keep, I mean, yeah, it goes underwater, but once it's back above water, it's easier to take care of, but,
Okay.
something like that wouldn't be a bad thing that we can utilize it with.
Okay.
Another idea is we've been seeing a lot of, not a lot, more than in the past, confrontation between equestrian use and bicycle use, especially like on the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail. But with all this land down there and all these gravel roads, is to encourage equestrian activity in that area, especially with where the horses are in the city are right along that area. So I think like that, something else as far as utilizing those access areas, and that would be a good spot to have that activity as opposed to on the paved trails where we've had some of the confrontations with multi-use trail. Just my
So-
2 cents of running over piles of horse turd.
I'm sure that some of this will get looked at in more detail with the Regional Trails Initiative anyway,
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that's part of what we're looking at
to
too.
help
is
define that, yeah.
What we want to do is, we heard your presentation, now we're going to, recommend that city staff continue to work with the Flood Control Agency and the Regional Trails Initiative. That's the plan. Any other comments, questions on this? If we can have at it.
The student portion you mentioned, do you know more about that? Because I was interested in that just because I have little kids, so what would that look like?
Actually, we're asking for comments and suggestions from you. Those were just some things that staff came up with initially. And so if you have any suggestions for us, we're willing to listen.
The only thing that came to mind actually was when I was up in Reading, and their portion of Sacramento River, they had binoculars for kids to be able to look across the river, which was kind of neat. I don't know if they weathered pretty well, because it's just as hot there as it is here and all that. So my son really enjoyed that. He's about 8 years old. So I can ask him more about what he would like.
Yeah.
but definitely that would be nice, because I know that the Riverwalk here near the Tower Bridge, it's neat. There's displays of like, oh, there's seals in the water, but honestly, my kids don't really pay attention to that. But they do ask a lot of questions, but they don't want to read about it. They just want to go and see and kind of hands-on interaction. Thank you.
All right. I think that's it, right? Next would be General Administration Function Part 2, Commission Calendar. I think we heard we're still waiting feedback on the joint commission meeting in July. And then the next commission meeting for us would be August 2nd. Is there any other comments from you guys, from staff, on calendar items? No? Okay. And future 9B, future item requests. Anybody have any future item requests?
Yeah, I do. Since we do have some new commissioners and so forth, I know before Andre left, supposedly he was working on maybe getting it where we could actually go around and see where some of the parks at and so forth. Yeah, definitely. Since summertime, when maybe we have a young man that has a summer break, and some of the other ones, maybe we could work something out where we could take the group around and show them. That way they kind of have an idea of what they're looking at and so forth.
Definitely. Park Superintendent Sam Cooney, he's going to be planning a trip. We'll try to coordinate with you guys, schedule a date where we can get everyone together, like on a lunch break.
And then,
Visit some of the facilities in the park.
then the other thing too, maybe one of the next times we could, I have some questions from different parks, whether it's the new one, Joey Lopes Park's getting ready to open up, or Bright Park, or Summerfield, some of the projects that were done or in the process of getting done. Questions. For example, like on Joey Lopes Park, you know, it looks like it's getting ready to open, but you got a couple deals up in front where the ground goes down. You know, then they got it all planted in and everything, but I've seen back in the past where items like that where maybe you might have to put some kind of a fencing around there so that somebody doesn't end up rolling down the bottom of that. I don't know if you've noticed them or not, but if you go by them, you'll see there's two, when they go down about 3 feet. You know, they got stuff planted in there, and I'm not sure if it's some kind of form of drainage of whatever it is. But I noticed when they actually did the Alice Norman Bright Playfield, and they overdid the drainage on it. Well, I'm not sure why that's set up that way, but to me, it could be a hazard that I'd like to get, you know, check it out, make sure it's not a hazard for the city. Okay? But things like that, and then so maybe some of the parks and some of the things that got done, maybe we could look after the fact, make sure that, why they did them, or they're still okay, or something of that nature. And because I've, in the past, I've seen things done, and then they had to go ahead and redid them because they weren't quite, there were little safety problems.
I'm happy to check with Superintendent Cooney as to the swales at Joey Lopes Park before that opening, because it's not scheduled to open until the 24th.
Yeah,
And if you
because
had
they're
other
actually close to the
specific,
sidewalks on the outside. And like I said, so I mean, someone could actually hit it and maybe tumble down. And I just hate to, you know. And the drawback, when I see, and then I seen there's some cement things in there, so I don't want somebody maybe tumbling and hitting themselves and actually getting hurt.
yeah, I'll check with him and we'll let you know.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
But those are things that updates or something. Thank you.
Any other future agenda item requests? Nancy?
This is not a future agenda, it's past. I was looking over from the April 12th meeting, and I saw that there was a member from AARP, and there were several senior citizens. Has there been any sort of resolution to this? Because this is my sort of expertise when it comes to seniors and boomers, and it seems like they're a little unhappy because they changed the meeting times, and how could we get some programs together for them so they wouldn't feel left out? I know a lot of the seniors down at the center, we were there, you know, every week for about a year and a half, so.
I wonder if that's something that in our packet, Paul can address with the memo that went sent out June 7th.
Okay, I like I said, I'm very new to this, so I may be jumping the gun or not jumping the gun, but,
No, it's something that we got to work on,
okay,
okay?
okay.
Like I said, I know Paul's been working on it. I've been trying to help him, and now that you're aboard, you know, we have some more input.
I would love to help. I would
Okay.
love to bring, you know, any kind of programs and get some seniors involved
And
with
so we
this.
could probably put that as a future agenda item too, that,
Absolutely.
Well, there is an item in your packet that directly talks about the consolidation of the commissions,
Okay.
as well as the selection of the time. So that's already an item that we've addressed in a memo to you. If you want additional information beyond that, please let us know, and we're happy to provide that for you.
Okay, so-
I think the other piece that's really important is by virtue of your appointment, you will be working on the age-friendly working group, which is really designed to start addressing some of these disparities that exist for all the generations. So it's not just the seniors, because when you do it at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then the youth can't attend, or those that are working can't attend. So there's all this myriad of issues that we're trying to balance, and so that's where that group that's going to be working specifically on those types of problems are going to be so critical and so important. Because I'm sure you've seen the RAND study that has come out that actually shows that park usage by seniors is not good. It's
No.
not, yeah, it's
I know
so,
that.
so hopefully that group will be able to, you know, get the latest and greatest innovative ideas so that when we do our Parks Master Plan update, we'll be able to incorporate some of those ideas so that we can make our parks more intergenerational, multimodal, all the latest buzzwords,
Okay,
so.
thank you so much.
Yeah, no,
I'm
no
looking forward
problem.
to this. Thank you.
And I want to thank you very much for the work that the guys did on the track around at Riverbank. They did a great job sorting that out. I want to thank them.
All right, let's see, where are we at now? We are at item 9C. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second? Anyone?
Say second.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.